So, how does hiring work in large, mid-sized, and small companies? Okay, to start with, let's categorize some of the primary approaches towards hiring or bringing on new employees. Well, to start with, there's referral, and companies have always hired people based upon the recommendation of others whom they respect. That might be their own employees, that might be companies that they deal with, or individuals with whom they have a relationship. They recommend employees or recommend candidates for employment at the company. Okay, so there's referral. Then there's internships. Internships have become foremost among methods for getting your foot into the door with a company, particularly larger companies. And we're going to talk about in a minute how Fortune 1000, that is your 1,000 most heavily capitalized companies in the United States, how they primarily use internships as their number one method of recruiting new employees that are non-lateral transfers, and we'll define that in a minute. And then there's the method of job posting, jobs out there, receiving applications, going through interviews, that type of thing, which is being used increasingly less as time goes on. That method, which used to be a predominant way that they would put out an announcement publicly for an employee, that happens less and less these days. So let's start with the Fortune 1000 company, okay? And let's start with who they're trying to hire. So if they are looking for someone who is already skilled in a given area, that they have a level of experience, then they'll likely post that job, and they do it through generally recruiters. Now, that may be a recruiter inside the company in their HR department, but more often than not, it's a recruiter outside of the company. These are individuals who their job, their function is to find individuals to recommend for interview and ultimately hopefully get hired with the company, and they're compensated a percentage of the individual's first year salary. They don't actually get any of the salary. Their compensation is based upon the first year salary of the individual who's hired, and they're compensated for finding that individual to be employed by the company. Okay, so anyway, recruiters are primarily the method used by Fortune 1000 companies to list jobs on sites like Monster, Indeed, Simply Hired, LinkedIn. When you apply, you're actually applying not to the company, but to the recruiter who's working on behalf as an agent of the company. Okay, so, but anyway, that's lateral transfer. Those are individuals with the 2 to 10 years of experience that you'll see required in the job posting. All right, but for new hires, business students coming out of business schools, or individuals without prior experience in the field, right? These individuals are generally recruited through internship programs, and Fortune 1000 companies usually have formalized summer internship programs where the individuals come in for that 3-month period. They work 40 hours a week or more, and it's a full-time position where they're basically learning the layout of the company. They're assigned to different roles, particularly project, but it's a lot of team building stuff and things like that. And so usually if a student in a undergraduate or MBA program gets an internship with a Fortune 1000 company in their business summer internship program, it's almost a 100% certainty they're going to get a full-time job offer after the internship experience is over. That's more common if the internship happens the summer before their senior year, but oftentimes they'll even get a job offer if it happens before that, the summer before the junior year, for example. Okay, so that's really important to know, and we talk more about internships later in different videos, but I just want to introduce that fact. Okay, now let's jump to small companies. How do small companies recruit? Well, generally it's mostly through referral. Once again, employees that already work there, the owner of the business or the owners, whoever they know, they have an idea. Sometimes they talk to other professionals in the industry through networking, such as at chambers of commerce or something like that, and they get referrals of people to work at the company. This is amazing for individual if you can get referred, right? If you have connections, if you have a network and somebody refers you for a position, oftentimes you're the only person who's there interviewing for the position. So it's amazing. You have no competition as long as you fit with the company. They like you, you're probably going to get the job. So that's why it's a huge advantage for individuals who are born with connections or who are very good at networking and can establish their own connections, because they get that referral to the potential job, right? And then, of course, you still have to show up. You still have to be what the company is looking for in terms of skill, knowledge, competency, that type of thing. So with that being said, small companies oftentimes also use placement agency, temp agencies as they call them, for specific services, and oftentimes those individuals leave the temp agency and continue to work at the company afterwards. Okay, so they'll bring in employees that way. And lots of times small companies, they'll be approached by students looking for internships, and they'll bring the student on as an intern, and while they're in school they work for the company as a part-time employee or intern, and after that they hire the intern or part-time employee for full-time positions. Okay, so that's another way, but usually that's the intern or the part-time employee being proactive in reaching out to the business or somehow finding out about the opportunity through a personal connection, for example. Okay, and then you'll see a mixture of that in mid-sized firms, right? They primarily hire on referral. They will sometimes take interns, and they'll have a formal relationship with a school, but they won't have the formalized internship program that you see in Fortune 1000 companies, for example, but they will take interns throughout the year and things like that, and oftentimes those interns will come aboard as a full-time employee later. And these companies tend to regularly use job boards, things like posting the position on local job boards, or even putting an announcement in the newspaper, or using email lists or organizational newsletters and things like that, and posting job opportunities in hopes of getting candidates like that. So these are the primary methods. And if you understand how these companies approach the hiring recruiting process, you can better position yourself to create an opportunity to interview to potentially gain or earn a position in one of these companies.